Good afternoon. Welcome to our workshop today. Super excited to have you all here. We have some really good information, as I always say. It's really good information. We have a good topic today. We're going to talk about wellness. We have an amazing speaker, Ms. Sage Chioma. And before I go into that, again, I'm Whitney Middlebrooks. I am the family self-sufficiency coordinator here at the wonderful Lexington Housing Authority. And we have our Boss Initiative, which helps push our workshops and pushing out some good information and content that you all can take and you apply it today and continue to apply it throughout your life, however you may see fit. And I'm going to have Miss Sage introduce herself because she will be our speaker today. She will be giving us some wonderful information, and I'm just excited to be in the room. So go ahead, Miss Sage.
Hi there, my name is Sage Chioma, and I am here today with Whitney Middlebrooks. Once again, every month we offer empowerment workshops, and she is the program coordinator for Family Self-Sufficiency Program at Lexington Housing Authority, and I am the program coordinator for Boss Initiative, which is building our success stories. I want to say that I love collaborating with Whitney because she is one of those millennials who just got it going on with the technology. So today, since I'm the presenter, usually we have different people come in. We have different topics about budgeting, your household. We try to provide information and knowledge that you can put into your everyday life. And so this is a Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I am going to introduce you to a style of facilitation called transparent facilitation because I rely on Whitney heavily for the technology. And today, with the presentation, I'll just apologize in advance if there's any hiccups throughout the presentation as far as technology. So, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We also will be talking about mental health, and we'll just briefly touch on it because each subject is a presentation within its own. So we'll talk about anxiety and depression because we know in COVID, these things have escalated and most people are experiencing some symptoms and not even able to recognize them, or they may be witnessing the symptoms of anxiety or depression in a loved one. Then we'll just briefly touch on self-care and what that really looks like. The thing about StreamYard is that you and I can't communicate. I don't really know who's in the room other than by you chatting. Whitney will be handling the chat and the questions. So if you could just introduce yourself. Let me
Yeah,
see who my
so I have actually
audience is.
someone. I just go ahead and just shout her out.
Mhm.
She said, "Hey, ladies, I'm excited to be here and see always inspiring and educational. Her educational friend, Miss Sage Chioma. So she is here to hear all the good stuff that Miss Sage has to offer today. So we just want to thank you for being here. And I also have Miss Bethany. She's in the room. She's actually viewing on our YouTube. So again, we do stream via Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And one thing before we move forward, um, we have about 6 people online. They haven't said anything, but hey, thank you for being here. Before we end, we always have a giveaway. So that just letting us know you're listening and you're engaged. So Miss Sage will have a question and she will need some, response. And whoever gets it is basically who can type fast enough. Um, and then we'll be able to give you that gift card. If you are not a part of the actual housing authority and you answer it, we'll kind of see how it works at that moment. But we'll make sure you'll have a chance to answer and definitely have our residents be able to answer too. I also have another shout out from Miss Alina. Are you? This is
Hey,
from
Elena.
Yeah, she said thanks for being there. So thank you for being here and taking time out of your day. I know it's in the mid-afternoon, but thank you for being here. We also have Miss Betty Gregory, who is one of our board members, and she is always every month she is in here with us, getting this information and always interacting. So again, we're just going to go ahead and get started. Um, And again, if you have any questions, we want it to be interactive. So if you have a question, a comment, put it in the chat and I'll be able to let Miss Sage know. We'll stop and take a moment to answer it and address whatever your concerns are.
And we'll get started.
All righty.
So is everyone with me?
Yes, Miss Sage, make sure you're on your the actual Google slide.
I am right now.
Mm-mm.
Okay, hold on.
Give us a moment. You know, technology. We're gonna get it. Hold on.
Okay, I just hit present.
Yeah, you're not in it right now.
All right. It says sharing StreamYard.com to do you see it now? No.
Mm-mm. You had it before, but I think you clicked out of it. So I don't know. You did something different. So it was up there, but you.
All right.
While you get that, I'll just have a couple shout outs. We have Terry Wells and shouting out Yonkers, New York is in the house. So
Okay.
good for you. And we also have Miss McFalls. She loves listening to her wonderful friend, Miss Sage. She is one of the most inspiring and knowledgeable people that she knows. So that's exciting. Shout out to Miss Sage. She got her people in here today. So we're going to definitely looking forward for a good time. So if you could share it, your screen one more time.
All right. Can you see it now? Don't say no.
Not you had it. I don't know why you clicked out of it because you was right there in it. But share it again and make sure that you're on the Google Slide tab and make you sharing your entire desktop and not just the screen or
All
tab.
right. Okay. I think that is where we were. I thank everybody for their patience. For some reason, okay, the entire screen.
While Ms. Sage gets that up, I just want to say that again, I'm the Family Self-Sufficiency Coordinator here at the Lexington Housing Authority. And we have a wonderful program where we offer escrow, basically a savings account to our participants. Whenever the rent goes up, they get that incentive. So if anybody's watching and you're not a part of the program here, but you're a part of the housing authority, definitely feel free to message me. I would love to have you in our program, get you some information about it so that how you can save and, continue to grow and be self-sufficient as you move forward in life. So how you got it now?
I believe so, but for some reason, I'm just seeing one slide. Okay.
Yeah, because you're not on the right screen. Hold on. So you need to be on don't share just a tab. You need to share your entire desktop. That's what you're not doing. I know this.
And I'm sorry, people. That is what I said transparent. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Because I went back.
You're not on the right screen. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're not. It's just me. I can just see us on that tab.
Okay, I'm going to try this one more time. And then if not, can you share the PowerPoint from where you are? Because you have a copy of it.
Okay.
I'm going to just try it one more time, y'all. There it goes. I got it now. Got it.
Okay. Put it on the actual slide because I still don't see it.
Here we are.
Okay. And make sure that you're on that. Yeah. Because it's just your email now. Just bear with us. Okay. There we go. So go ahead and put it in presentation mode. Okay, y'all, you know what I'm
I thank you all for your patience. This is what I mean about the style of transparent facilitation,
saying?
and also why I just love Miss Middlebrooks, because she is the genius who does all the technology. So today we're talking about wellness, mental health, self care. October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Did you know that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner? On a typical day, domestic violence hotlines receive approximately 21,000 calls and approximately 15 calls every minute. Intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent crime, and at least 20 people per minute experience physical abuse. So when you think about those numbers, it's staggering, because love should never hurt. And so when we think of intimate partners, I that's why I ask people to just, check in and say who the audience is, basically because a lot of times my people that we attract here at our monthly sessions are women. But it's not just intimate, it's intimate relationships. It could be an elder who is receiving elder abuse, that's a domestic situation. It could be a child in the household who has undiagnosed, untreated, or problems with medication actually becoming violent in the home. Or it can even be same sex gender, because oftentimes we see it as being just perpetrated by men, but I attract mainly women, so I'm going to speak from that perspective today. Intimate violence partnerships, 94% of the victims of these crimes are female. And so some of the things that we'll notice as far as the characteristics, because there's different types of abuse, it's not always just physical. So control, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and intimidation, isolation, verbal abuse, coercion, threats, and blame, or using male privilege or economic abuse. And male privilege could mean that the person is physically stronger. Uh, Male privilege, using that power that they have over the person because of economic reasons. It's not so much as it was back in a time where women were homemakers, and they actually, all of their livelihood and everything depended on actually the head of household being a male. So when we think of isolation, we think that, an elder abuse, somebody might be isolated, they don't have a social life, they're being kept away from friends, and even in early signs of the potential for intimate violence, there's control, which is the number one reason that most of this really happens, and as well as childhood issues, untreated trauma. But I will say that if someone I meet isolates me and always wants just my attention, a lot of teenage girls might be going through abuse, and they're not even aware that it's abusive. They have no means of defining it, and they haven't developed healthy boundaries. So when we look at abuse on a physical, violent, sexual level, we could say that it is about power and control. These are different ways in which it may manifest: emotional and verbal abuse. So you don't have a black eye, but your self esteem and self worth could be wounded because of years, months, or however long of emotional and verbal abuse. Technology and stalking. So those are other ways in which there is abuse happening as far as females being victimized, females being subjected to violence. And as it says, using privilege. Sometimes minimizing and denying and blaming is something else that happens. So that's something: I didn't break your ribs, you just tell me you have a black eye, we'll minimize, I'll deny or blame. And then coercion and threats. So the person may just be living under a constant threat of violence. This throws them off psychologically, it causes depression, And PTSD is one of the things that manifests from years of living under this kind of abuse. And economic abuse, I spoke of a little bit, but what I'm going to speak of, and I'm going to show a short clip, um, is sometimes people will use children, and that could be a form of abuse. I have witnessed women who, it doesn't matter what class, socioeconomic status, um, race. I have noticed and I have worked with women who, if the father of the children had more economic means, he would threaten to take the children and very often would take the children and winds up using the children as a way of control. And some people think women just do that, but I witnessed it where it happened because the woman did not have the means and the man had the resources. So he was the one who won out. I want to say when we talk about domestic violence, that children are the silent victims. They don't have a voice in whatever happens. And so they're the ones who witness this in silence. And I once heard a poet, talk about like two Mack trucks just crashing into each other. And that's what a child feels is happening. Like there are two parents just crashing into each other and they're powerless to stop anything that is going on. So I'm going to show this short clip.
Hi, I'm Poetic Epiphany. 1-800-799-7233. It happened before Christopher Maurice Brown. My mama, a delicate fusion of Robin Fenty and anime. What's love got to do with it? A very real question in between these four walls that had obviously gone mute and blind, bound by the truth and fear of abuse I never told. I never got on stage and recited this side of my truth. I was afraid to spoke or be one in this twisted wheel of life. Coming from a family full of secrets, outing one was punishable by exclusion. And to me, inclusion meant love, so no whispers about how daddy painted mommy's face. No proclamations about how I lived with Vincent Conciliate at age 6. So ripe, I was muzzled like a savage. This is a dream. A figment of your imagination turned nightmare. It never happened. Go to your room. My dad beat the hell out my mom. And a part of me was so confused because how could a man so wise, so smart, so loving, transform? Jekyll and Hyde had nothing on my daddy. I remember one day, he took his knees and placed them on her ribs. His hands he wrapped around her neck in preparation to take her life. She didn't yell or cry. Almost like after 28 years of attachment, she was ready to die, or maybe play possum until his conscience yelled as loud as she could from the stairs, "Daddy, stop!" Not knowing who exactly I was searching for, but as he turned around, it was my daddy, my hero. So I never told. Can you imagine the chip on my shoulder when she says she stayed for the kids? Do you know what it feels like to be the reason your mother died while still alive? She stayed for the kids. Which is why I tell people I understand why she hates me just as much as she loves me. You try looking your rapist in the face every day. You try staring at the reflection of your past every afternoon. I am walking a hard drive of my father and his sins. She confessed to me that he said if OJ got away with it, he can too. So sometimes I get sick of hearing dudes say they got the juice. My first example of how words can completely bound and gag someone or completely morph lives. My mother sleeps with her door locked, a bookcase behind it and a dresser behind that. She stays up until 3 a.m. singing and praying to her something to believe in for peace. She's still scared of my father. Even though he's remarried and lives 2 hours away, far isn't far enough. He still touches her at night. He still manages to take her breath away. I moved to another state at 18. assuming she feels better now, thinking maybe I'm a better child if I allow her the opportunity to forget, still maneuvering like a 6-year-old, still trying to save my mama. Domestic violence happened before Chris Brown. It happens after Chris Brown. Any of us could be Rihanna. So 1-800-799-7233. If you are in danger, tell. Thank you.
Wow.
So let us just take a deep breath and
Wow.
hold the space, because right now we know that every minute at least 20 women or people are being hurt by someone who they trust and who they love. And in this time of COVID, we know that domestic cases have risen because people are, at home together. They're not able to get out, go to work, and being close like that has caused some tensions. So we'll hold the space. Thank you. So I want to say that what I noticed is the resilience of that young woman. And although we know about post traumatic stress syndrome or stress disorder, PTSD, there's also something called post traumatic growth syndrome. And that talent, that power, and that beauty in her healing was something to really witness. And I just make notice of that and hold that space for the healing that can happen for families. So this part is how to spot a toxic relationship before you get involved.
Before you go on, Sage, I just want to highlight a comment because you talked about, um, her resilience, and I want to share a comment from Miss, I think from Terry Wells. Said a lot of her story was my story, and I appreciate the emphasis on was, because that lets me know that there has been some growth, there has been some trying times, but this person has been able to get through and overcome, and we don't know what that is, and they don't have to share. But I wanted to share that comment because there could be other people that could be going through this right now and they don't know, how do I get out of that? How do I deal with my parent who is in this? How do I deal with my friend who may be dealing with this? Or how do I deal with it when I'm in it? So I appreciated that comment, and again, the emphasis on was, because it lets me know that that's the overcomer. That is someone who has been through and can say, this is no longer my story. So I just wanted to thank you for that comment. Just want to highlight that.
Thank you, Teresa. And that is important because the resilience of that young lady is what stands after the aftermath of all of that. And there are things to look for before you get involved with a person. But if you're already involved or you know someone who's involved, um, that's what this next part will be about. And then we'll talk about self-care. So how to spot a toxic relationship before you get involved. It is a curriculum or a book written by a woman named Sandra Brown. And this woman wrote this because a friend of hers wound up in a relationship, and the domestic violence that she found herself in led to a fatality. So what I'm going to say is this is just a clever thing, but it's not written in stone, because it's a profile, just like you have a serial profiler, who looks for serial people who have serial bad relationships, right? Well, you have profiles of people. And so I'm just going to run through them quickly. The permanent clinger, that could be a needy, self-centered, or self-identified victim whose chief danger is sucking the life out of you. So I say that because it's somebody that as soon as you meet them, it might be really nice, the attention that they're showing, but you don't realize that they are a permanent clinger. They are somebody who will smother you. Then there's the parental seeker, and that's an immature man who wants you to look after them. And so you might meet somebody and you might think how nice it is. You know, in the beginning, these things are cute, especially if you're a young woman. But after time goes on, they get old really quick. Then there's the emotionally unavailable man, men who are already committed to another partner and won't commit to you. And so that is an emotionally unavailable person because they may have gotten out of the relationship, but they still may have an emotional attachment elsewhere. And so that is something you can see before you get involved. Then there's the man with the hidden life, men who are hiding secrets that should be disclosed to a partner, such as children, disease, a criminal past, or an addiction. So these are, not like everybody. I asked when I would do this as a group with women, we would cover these like the mentally ill man, a man at any level of functioning who has a mental illness. And then there is the addict. This catch category includes any man who has any kind of addiction, including alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, food, and a number of other behaviors, including work. And that's important because when we think of addiction, it's been criminalized for so long in our culture that nobody realizes if you're a workaholic, everyone will enable you. They just want to know if I could have the credit card and where are we going to eat tonight? So it doesn't get addressed the same way like a gambling person may lose their house. They may lose things. They come back, they don't have the mortgage. So these things create a high level of unmanageability and stress for those who love them. The abusive or violent man, men who are abusive in any way, including emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. And then there's the emotional predator. These are men who seek out and torment vulnerable women, and this includes psychopaths. I heard something the other day because what it boils down to as we move into self care is it's like a catchphrase. You must love yourself, learn to love yourself. We say it, but the bottom line is somebody said the only people who are attracted to people who do not love themselves are predators or parasites. And I thought, wow, that's harsh. But when you really think about how these profiles fit, they have to catch you when you're most vulnerable or naive. Now, this doesn't paint the picture for our whole society and culture. This is just something that she thought would be helpful, especially for women who don't recognize it early on that they are with someone who is unhealthy. So, when it comes to behavioral health, I have to say that that might be one of the reasons that some of these things have escalated into domestic violence. Because you might have certain disorders that went undiagnosed, untreated, or the person may have suffered from seeing violence in their home in their childhood. All of these different things can lead to just a person who is traumatized reacting to trauma whenever they're triggered, even if the trauma is far gone and it happened in the past. I want to also say, with COVID being what it is, some of us may be experiencing symptoms and not even know that it may be anxiety or depression. Anxiety can come in different disorders, like a phobic disorder, where a person is scared of every particular thing and they're really scared. They have impending doom they can't explain. It's almost like the sky is falling when nothing is really actually happening. It's happening in between their ears. Post-traumatic stress disorder can happen because we see the escalation of violence in our society. Any child who has experienced school shootings or even the drills that they have to do in school just in case. These things change the way the brain operates and the way the brain functions. Generalized anxiety disorder is something that's not so But some people have a social anxiety where they're fine until they're in a room full of people. And panic disorder. So panic disorder can come in the form of a panic attack where you just feel like you can't breathe. And these symptoms are physiological. And somebody who goes to the hospital could be almost appearing to have a heart attack when it is actually a panic attack, or an asthma attack when they don't have asthma because they can't breathe. So these panic disorders can actually create physical things in the body. Total transparent facilitation. Remember, that's my style. Anxiety, when it happens to me, my stomach is in turmoil and I would think sometimes I have food poisoning, or I would like really have to go to the bathroom really bad. A lot of people would write that off as something else. So anxiety could be mimicked or mistaken for something else physiological. Will it and can it turn to hypertension and other forms of illness over years? The body can't take but so much of that rush of adrenaline and whatever else is going on in your neural system and your nervous system. People who are obsessive compulsive disorders, they probably cleaning like that soothes them because they can't deal with things being out of order. Now, when it comes to depression, I'm only running through these very quickly for sake of time, but a lack of energy or tiredness, feeling worthless or guilty, though not at fault, difficulty concentrating and making decisions, moving more slowly, easily irritated, and then unable to settle down. So the thing about it is it could cause weight gain because you might eat out of depression as a way to self-soothe, or you might have total loss of appetite. Have difficulty sleeping, and some people will say, oh, I got insomnia. When really depression also could be in the body where you're aching from head to toe, and you don't even know why you're so stiff and why you're hurting, why your body hurts. So I run through these very quickly. Do I have any comments or questions or anything anyone would like to share at this point in the chat? Nothing, Whitney?
No, there's nothing, no comments on this side as of now.
Okay. So I'm going to address types of self-care. And then I'm going to ask people to participate by saying what are some of the forms of self-care that they utilize. I want to say when it comes to anxiety and it comes to depression, for me, exercise, prayer, and meditation and journaling. Those are three things that are my go-to that help me. And when it comes to depression, also, I want you to understand that in this climate that we're in, a lot of times for me, I can feel anger, I can feel frustration, I can feel hopeless. And I have to be mindful that most of it is caused by external triggers, not things that I am actually doing or causing, but things that are within our environment, whether it's our homes, our nation. And this time that we're in, if you're not feeling a little off balance, chances are you aren't that plugged in, right? But if you know that feeling that way will push you to the other side of the pendulum to do the things that make you feel whole and balanced. So even if you feel off balance, that's not a bad thing because it forces you to look at this list and tell me what is your strength or what are the things that you do. I have somebody here that started working on finances and had a wonderful experience with that and started talking to a certain group about a financial boot camp that caused them to like address it. She knows who she is if she's still on.
Well,
So
if she doesn't comment, I would like to comment when in regards to the previous slide when we were talking about the anxiety, as you talked about what's going on in the world. I think this is the first time in my life that I have felt physically depleted, emotionally depleted, and it's so on top of COVID, Black Lives Matter, a lot of the political things, life, and it just seemed like everything just hit me in 2020, and perhaps things that I may have never addressed. It's like, oh, it came up in 2020, and I'm like, really? So I just wanted to share as a transparent moment that I've never felt out of control. This is probably, in the sense, the first time in my life where I'm like, I don't really know. I really might need to go talk to somebody because life can be overwhelming. And I appreciate the fact that it doesn't make me something's wrong with me. But as you talked about the external factors that cause other things to maybe trigger other things and maybe pushing me to maybe address, maybe I need to sit down with a therapist and talk this thing out. And I think that'd be healthy for me, not only for my physical health, emotional, spiritual health, of just, talking it out, for doing some more self-care, um, taking time for myself and saying no to certain things when I'm overwhelmed. But I just wanted to share that because 2020 for sure shook me up. So just wanted to share. Mhm.
is there any comments after that statement, Whitney?
No.
Okay, so it's important that we understand culturally, because this is a predominantly Black and brown or people of lower income. We have to be mindful that a lot of times to get help, we feel like people might be judging us. And it's been not traditional to actually say, I can't do it. In all actuality, I told somebody I'm taking off the cape and the mask. I'm no longer trying to be the strong Black woman. That is a syndrome called the sojourner syndrome, like where you weather a storm and then another storm and then another storm. And you weather so many storms that actually you start to think that that's just the way life actually is. And it's called weathering. And the more storms you weather comes that final day where the body remembers and keeps the score. The body will remember all of the different stressors that you got through, and then it'll show up in the body later. Speaking on wellness, because we are a culture that examines and explores and picks apart disease, we don't give that much emphasis to wellness. And so I want to say, when it's about healing and when it's about wellness, it is about mind, body, and spirit. You can't just treat, right? You can't just treat the mind and forget the body. You can't just treat the body. And this is why we don't have the success that we could have in healthcare, because we're always separating them as if they are three separate parts, when
Mhm.
actually they are three parts meant to work together, not wage war on one another. So I know that sounds harsh, but that's how we often approach things. I appreciate your transparency, Whitney. Any other comments?
No, any others? No, not right now.
Everybody's awfully quiet out there.
Feel free to share. I mean, this is a no judgment zone, So if you feel like you want to say or share or just have a comment, feel free to do that.
I want to say that I will put in the chat when I come out of here the national hotline number, because there is a national hotline number for domestic violence. And that's a number that you could call anytime, day or night, and get information about where to go in your area. And then there's also one place here in Lexington that I know will do the referral and the assessment to make sure that a person can get to safety. When it comes to
I
domestic
want
violence,
to I want to share a comment real quick before
yes.
you go on, just for interaction. I have, I want to say it's Joya. Am I saying it right? Wesley.
Yes.
Said she found much improvement in her anxiety and depression from adopting a plant, and I think that is amazing. I've noticed, I'm gonna say, because I'm big on social media, I noticed an influx with COVID. People that I didn't even know were into plants. Everybody's buying plants. Everybody is a hashtag a plant mom. But what I noticed is people needed something to help them, something, whether they were already doing it, they kind of got more into it since we were in quarantine and couldn't go out. And I think that there's definitely healing with just the plant and what a plant of growth represents. And a lot of people have taken to that. And she also mentioned a plant-based diet. So
Uh-huh.
changing up her diet has helped, I guess, with some of her anxiety. And I need to look into that for sure. And she has a link. So if anybody's interested, you can just click on it in the Facebook news, excuse me, the Facebook Live. Thank you, Miss Wesley, for sharing.
Anybody else have any suggestions? I'll move to the next one, which you can share in the chat, and Whitney will share it with us on your strategies for self care. I think that the collective wisdom is great. I do know if I meditate in the morning or if I don't meditate in the morning, I know the difference in how my day goes. It will not flow. Everything that happens will irritate me. And so I have to make sure that I'm consistent with my practice. And if I take a walk out in nature, that's really good for me. And I love Zumba because I love to dance. I want to say that music is medicine for me. So I also like to play certain songs if I'm cleaning my house or if I just need to pick me up. So anyone else want to
I'll
tell us?
I'll share something that I did recently.
Mhm.
Um, I had read this article about a spiritual bath. And we're talking about self-care. It's definitely a self-care aspect of the relaxation of the bath, but the bath entails so much. You put certain things in your bath that you want to manifest. And I aligned it with it was a new moon. I've never been into that, but at this point, it ain't gonna hurt me. Anything to distress and kind of bring some new life to me. So I did it on the new moon. Um, I wrote a prayer. I was very intentional about the prayer. I was very intentional about what I want to manifest. There were certain ingredients. I can't go through everything, but there was like things to get rid of negative energy, um, things that actually attract money, finances, love, and just a lot of different things. And I can honestly say that I'm a little shook at just being intentional about it in the prayer and the aspects of sitting down in the bath and being quiet and not just relaxing, but being intentional about what you're thinking about. It was pretty powerful. So if anybody's interested in the spiritual bath, I'll send an article. I can post it. It's very good. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
And you know what? If you're feeling some kind of way, water is always the key. Water will always shift your mood, and drinking as much as you can, because I get fatigued around a certain time of day, and I notice if I just drink water, I all of a sudden my energy will pick up again. And drinking water is not my favorite thing to do. I rather, I always want to put like my vitamin C in it or have tea, but that water is powerful.
Mhm.
Anyone else want to share?
That's all we got right now.
Okay. Well, I want to say when it comes to space, I have a tendency to collect a lot of books. I have a tendency to collect a lot of things. And I don't care how many times I go to Goodwill and I take everything out. When I'm coming in my house with bags, I get that heavy feeling. You just cleared out your space and so my bedroom and my closet, I worked on it. And I will say that I can sleep so much better. So when some people think they aren't able to sleep, there is something about clutter and insomnia that is connected.
Hmm.
And so if you clear your space, you will feel the energy and the difference automatically. And I could say that I just slept like a baby. I just like, and I was like, wow, this is such a good feeling. And when I would enter the room, I would feel how different that room felt from other rooms that I had not gotten to. So reducing stress is always the key. And finding ways to self soothe is always the key. Whitney talked about a spiritual bath. You could light the candle in your bath. I buy fresh flowers every week. And so I keep my fresh flowers in the house. It's just something I do that's special for me. I buy myself fresh flowers. Nature walks are great. And I'm wondering how many other people do we have still on the call?
I actually have Miss Bethany here, and she actually has a more of a suggestion.
Yeah.
And I think as we're talking about self care and just doing certain things, she kind of had a suggestion that she likes the virtual workshops, but we're in COVID, Bethany, so it's kind of tough that what we can do. But she suggested that maybe for the workshops that we should maybe do some yoga or Zumba run or something like that in the park, and we can still social distance, and I'm open to that. So that's just something we can definitely come back. And I have, but thank you for that suggestion, Bethany, because that's something that can go with self care that we can incorporate, especially before it gets cold. And I also have Alina that made a comment that she does meditation and journaling for some of her self care practices.
Yes. And I want to ask Alina to please share with us about sacred space because sometimes we need to dedicate a place in our home for that quiet time or that sacred space. Alina, are you willing to share that in the chat with us? I was just curious.
Yes, she said sure. So I guess to give her time to kind of, explain. But
So when we look at work and time management, boundaries and breaks, that's a difficult one for most of us, time management, because for me, I work from home and it seems like the day goes really quickly and it's hard for me to not get distracted. But I know that it's also hard for me to take a break. So it's good to take breaks and walk away from work um, if you are working, because sometimes we could just work for a long stretch of time. And they say there are certain diseases that could happen and they could predict in a person who has a job that has them sitting for long periods of time.
mhm.
So some people get those little balls,
Oh,
exercise
yeah.
balls, and they work on those, right? Because it's almost like they're exercising. I mean, I think Joya knows something about that. So, um, yeah. She put it in the chat?
Not yet, but
Mhm.
and also we have someone commented that she likes to craft, so that definitely is a wonderful self care way to kind of distress, and you get kind of focused on that. I've been crafting too, actually. um I've been doing a lot, just trying to find what can I not think about what's going on in the world. Yeah.
And so these are ways of mindfulness because if you craft, like for me, I like to make earrings or bead. I think it's almost like shelling peanuts. You start and you just sit there and the time goes and you get so absorbed in it that your mind isn't focused like Whitney just shared on anything except what's right in front of you. And then authenticity is a form of self-care. I find that interesting. And I think as a person growing older, I'm beginning to get back to my real identity. And I think a lot of times our identity is tied up into the expectation of others when we're younger. Our identity is tied up into the expectations of what the world says we have to bring to the table in order to be legitimate or in order to be worthy, or what you know, and you can be good at something that no one ever taught you how to do it, and you're really good at it, but without that particular um, evaluation or accreditation, you don't feel, and it could really be your medicine that you're chosen to bring to the world. But if you're authentic in the things that you love and the things that you do well, then that's authenticity. That right there is part of self-care, being authentic and standing in your true self.
I have a Miss Selena who commented. She says self-care requires physical, emotional, and spiritual. Therefore, creating a sacred space in your home you can go to for prayer and quiet time. So I think that's key. As you talked about decluttering, so it's so many aspects of it, but creating a safe space, a clean space, a clear space will also, be able to help clear your mind. You can pray and have that quiet time to yourself. Thank you for sharing that.
And
Um,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm just want to share a few more comments.
Great,
Miss
great.
Joya said that she likes having her ball that she has. It creates an element of fun to her work. So I don't have that. I feel like I need that now to kind of break up the monotony. So yeah, thank you for sharing. We have another comment from Terry Wells. She says forgiveness is a powerful form of self-care. And I think that is like for real. I mean, you wouldn't, we talk about, so much weight people take on and they've never let go of something that happened 20 years ago and they wonder why they keep having headaches, the chest hurt. It's so deep. There's so much anxiety in that. And then if you can free, it's not always easy, but if you can find a way to free yourself from that hurt, that disappointment, I do know that would make people feel so much lighter and be able to, be truly who they can be without having some other hate and, disappointment, resentment for someone. So thank you for that one.
Well, I want to say that I really appreciate everybody who showed up in this space. And Whitney, I think the suggestion that Bethany gave is right on point. I would really love to be out in a park, and I do know a few Zumba instructors, so I might be able to make it happen. It's just, we got like just 2 more months, but hopefully the weather will stay like it is right now for a little longer. And I want to also say that this is a community that is, I would say, underserved, but at the same time, there are resources. Whitney Middlebrooks is a resource. I am a resource. Avis Robertson is a resource. And in order to really take advantage of the resources, the word has to get out there that it is about COVID will not last forever. And the 100 years ago, when we had a pandemic, proves that it will not last forever. And we can decide in here and now who we will become and what we will have to contribute to our world when it's over. And that's all the things that we heard here today, setting intentions. I think Whitney and I will maybe do something around family self-sufficiency because I spoke to a young lady from another city. I will not mention the city. She's lived in housing for probably about 15 years, and she had never, ever heard of family self-sufficiency. She had no idea that there was an opportunity for her to have money saved in escrow with interest for her if she worked and put this money aside, that in 5 years she would be able to have a down payment for a house or whatever she deemed, as long as she set the goals and followed the strategy. And I found that, so I was so saddened because she's been got a great work history for the past 5 years, and she would have been a perfect candidate. But she is in a particular development in another city I will not mention, where she wasn't even told and she wasn't aware of the program. So Boss Initiative is about building our success stories. So I want you to just get the word out that there is such a program as family self-sufficiency. It is a HUD program, and people can at least Google that and find out more about it. And when all else you've done, they say you stand, light a candle, say a prayer, and don't forget to take a deep breath and breathe.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Miss Sage. So that ends your PowerPoint.
Yes, yes. So I will stop sharing. And I will ask anybody that has any final remarks to say something, and I will think of my question. Whitney, you want to come up with a question based on
You
anything?
got it. But while you think of your question, I'm gonna share one last comment from Miss Joya. She said that avoiding or limiting the news also helps her in the boundaries of that department. So I agree 1,000%. I some people might be weird when they say I don't watch the news, and I have had to stop watching the news because it triggers me. It never makes me feel good. So I say I'm gonna limit myself on that because I can't turn on the TV and it's just like craziness every time. So I'm with you on that one. I ain't doing it. I will search what I need if it's something informational I'm looking for, but I'm not gonna sit and watch the news all day. Can't do it.
And I really appreciate that because I thought it in my mind when I had the self care up there, and I forgot to mention it that I have this habit though of talk radio. So my guilty thing is when I get in the car, I have it going. But for the most part, I don't wait because the breaking story at 6 o'clock is the same breaking story that it was at 9 o'clock in the morning. And it's a constant repetition of things that might be harmful. And even with all that we're enduring with the civil unrest due to racial injustice, I find that sometimes I'm traumatized by talking about it too much because I've lived it. So people who are discovering these injustices and really having a sincere, well-meaning intention are excited about beginning this work. Whereas some of us have been doing this work so long, we're ready for the healing and to see the results. So, so it gets to be a lot. And I'm glad that when I'm angry, I allow myself to not suppress it. Uh, I don't turn it inward, but we have to have safe spaces to come together and work together.
Mhm. Thank
Another
you
comment?
all. No, everybody just sending their thank yous. I just say verbally, thank you all for participating, being here. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you was with us today, and I really appreciate that. Thank you for your comments, suggestions on what to do for self care, and sharing what you've done, and suggestions on how we could even do certain things in this program of some outdoor events. Let's see how that works, Ms. Sage, and getting more participation that way, but and encouraging self care even through some of the crises and things that we're dealing with. So thank you all. We're going to go ahead and end. Before we end, Miss Sage is going to have her question.
Okay. Um, could someone just say to me one type of dangerous or toxic characteristic that you could name in a person? I said several and I said them kind of quickly, but one of them might have stood out for you.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I want to share this because I always think sharing somebody's story
Mhm.
is so good because again, you never know who's watching and not really comfortable sharing. So she commented, so I'm sure she is okay with me posting this one. It said, this is from Miss McFalls. She
Okay.
says, thank you, Miss Age. In my 20s, years ago, my first husband was abusive. I left after a few years and intellectually put him behind, but my body remembered. Anytime someone made a small move that seemed threatening, I went into a heart pounding, full blown spasm. Learning to love myself was a huge step. That is powerful. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that.
I really appreciate that too. That's Miss McFalls. I'm glad for the wealth of women and experience that showed up in this space today
Mhm.
because basically it's very difficult to get the engagement of those who need it the most. But this honored domestic violence awareness by having so many women with their wisdom. So we have learned to let our wounds be our wisdom, to let our past not define us but inform us. And those are the women that have shown up in this space. And I really thank you so much. So I'm going to just ask, is
She
there,
we have a person who already actually answered it.
oh, who answered it? Bethany?
You know it. What was the question again?
The question was one type of profile that helps you to spot a toxic relationship or a dangerous man before you get involved. I named several things, so just name any one of them.
Um,
Permanent clinger. All right, Bethany. Absolutely. That was the first one, the permanent clinger. Yes. And so there are just things that are real cute in the beginning, but as time goes on and you start to have your own identity or your own responsibility, whether it's the kids or other things that pull at you, that clinger may turn into somebody that is very dangerous. So, Bethany, you get the gift card.
I do. I actually have Miss. She said verbally. Was that one of them too? I just wanted to highlight her. How would that work?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't verbally. Verbally is a form, but there's verbal abuse, there's physical abuse, mental abuse, and there can be sexual abuse, right? But what I was talking about is the profile, like the permanent clinger, the mentally ill, the man who has the hidden life, right? The man who actually is parental seeker. He's looking for a mommy. He might even call you mommy, and that's cute in the beginning, but after a while,
Yeah. Okay.
like,
So that was so really it was what Bethany had said the
yes. But
permanent.
thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. We're so glad you're in this space.
I need to talk to you too. She knows. I want to talk to her about some stuff.
Okay, and I want to. For some reason, I don't. Okay, I'm in the chat over here, right? So let me see.
Yeah, we are good to go. And so Bethany, I will contact you and I will get this to you. So next month, what do we have in store next month? What's the topic? I don't have it in front of me.
I will talk to you about that because
Okay.
I
So we're working on it.
yeah, we might be able to fit what Bethany wants, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, so we're gonna work on it. Thank you all for being here again, Bethany. I'll reach out to you. And again, thank you for being here. This will be posted on our Facebook. So feel free, those that are on here, please share it. You know, we want to get some more. It doesn't have to be Lexington Housing Authority. We would love to have other people who want to be a part of our workshops and get this information. So share this video on your news feed, tag us, you know, let everybody know what we have going on. So we really appreciate it. Do you have any other things you want to add, Ms. H, before we
No, I
go?
just want to thank everybody for being here and honor everyone's time. So thank you.
Well, you all have a wonderful week. We will see you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.